I have fantastic viewer questions and responses and tips to share as we get your advice as well. But I'm wondering overall, looking at this report, as I know you were, we were talking to the lead researcher last hour, and he said that Canada's in the third inning, using a baseball analogy, obviously, of what he thinks is going to be quite a worsening crisis in the next 6 to 8 months. And we're talking about $1,000 a year more for a family of 4. We're quite concerned about the impact on food affordability, food insecurity. What are you hearing and seeing, and what is your level of concern about this?
Yeah, Heather, food is just one component of what's keeping a lot of Canadians up at night. Now, you know, I spoke with you before the pandemic, and we've heard those numbers that 50% of Canadians are just a couple $100s away from not being able to pay their bills. So, you know, you take the food inflation and these numbers too, Heather, a lot of people are talking to me feeling like it's a lot more than 7% that they're being hit at the grocery store. So you take that increased energy prices, you know, the numbers came out the other day that Canadians have increased their mortgage indebtedness by $190 billion during the pandemic. So you add all of that up, and that has a lot of people, you know, not sleeping at night, wondering how are they going to cover their bills now, but how are they going to cover it in 2022?
And so we turn to you for your expertise, specifically on food. I think it's the makings there of more conversations with you next year, Kelley. But this is a specific one, and then I'll broaden it out to more. But I do want to get to Kathy's question from Regina. Kathy, Kelley, is gluten intolerant and diabetic, she writes us. And gluten-free foods are so expensive. Bread, $8.99 a loaf, for example. So is there anything, when you take into consideration those health concerns, gluten-free, diabetic-conscious foods, is there any way to save money there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really feel for Kathy because I'm also gluten-free and on a keto diet, which is incredibly expensive. So I hope Kathy maybe will try this out. I actually make my own bread, and it's like a fraction of the price. It's much easier than you think. Once you order, you know, it does cost a little bit of money to get all of those ingredients, which can be quite costly. But you make a few loaves, you throw it in the freezer, you slice it up, you have it ready to go. And it's probably, dare I say, Kathy, so much better for you as well than all the additives that's in those types of baked goods that you find at the store.
Fantastic advice. I wouldn't have thought of that, Kelley, so you tied right in with that concern. Marilyn writes, and what I'm going to do, Kelley, is share their tips as they've shared with us, and then get you to you know, evaluate, expand upon. So Marilyn says she buys everything on sale, including enjoy tonight food. So the kind of thing you see particularly in the meat section, for example. Things go into the freezer if she can't enjoy tonight. What do you think of that strategy?
I think it's fantastic, and not just throwing it into the freezer as well. What Marilyn can do is maybe plan on cooking it that night, then, you know, packing it up for the kids' lunches, or then throwing it in the freezer. I just kind of would want to have that cooked even that evening. Then you don't have to worry about defrosting it and how fresh it is. But fantastic, right? People are getting creative. We're seeing that more and more in the stores where the shelves are getting bigger and bigger of the cook tonight items.
Yes.
So why not save some big bucks there?
What about seniors? Danielle and Patricia writing in about seniors on a fixed income, rent, food prices going up, their amount of available money is not. A specific word for them before I share some tips from one of our viewers.
Yeah, seniors are being hit the hardest, as we know, really fixed budgets. I mean, I think maybe you just have to get a little bit creative, maybe doing some potlucks together, maybe doing some shopping, some grocery shopping together with your friends, buying in bulk, especially if you live by yourself. You're not going to go and buy all this food in bulk. So why not get a Facebook group together, get your neighborhood together, do some shopping, do some cooking together, especially during the holiday season. You can really stretch your dollars and maybe even have a little bit of fun while you're at it.
Okay, good one. Okay, buy in bulk, that's a good tip. And Patricia, in writing to us, says this is her strategy as a senior who is on a fixed income. Always shops for what's on sale, collects points, looks for deals. Rarely buys coffee out. Is that something to think about, Kelley? Hold on for just a second. And going out for dinner, it's a very rare occurrence and something not able to afford very often. We know that the cost of restaurant food, we were in this report, it's going up very high, 8% in 2022 is the projection. What do you hear in Patricia's? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think too, yes, everyone is going to have to cut back. Everyone has been cutting back. but maybe the occasional coffee out, I think, is a great indulgence. Enjoy, a little bit once in a while, because sometimes too, what happens, Heather, is when we get too restrictive with cutting everything back, that scarcity mindset really hits in. And then, when things do start coming back, when you do have a little bit more dollars, sometimes then we overindulge. So absolutely, make your coffee at home, cook at home as much as you can, but be sure to take some time to indulge as well once in a while.
Good for the mental health, too. It really gives you a little bit of a spark. Cooking at home, we were hearing from the author of the food price report, and he was telling us that one of the positives from the pandemic is that people are a lot more aware of food. They're cooking at home more. They are actually going out and bringing ingredients, and Patricia also says she's learning new recipes. So that is something that more and more Canadians are doing, and that does lead to, I suppose, a reduction in cost.
Yeah, love it, and love what Patricia's doing. And for, the people, Heather, who are juggling kids still at home and all of the, work at home, I think part of it is getting really organized. I know my husband and I get very fatigued with what we're cooking, when we're cooking it. So if you just maybe on Sunday or on the weekend kind of formulate a plan, figure out who's doing the grocery shopping, who's cooking what, have your menu set out, have all the ingredients ready to go, then you're so much more likely to cook at home than to, maybe go to the food delivery services and things of that sort, because everyone was just too busy to get organized. So a little pre-planning, it actually can, again, be fun. Try some new recipes, but I find it can be a little bit exhausting trying to figure out your menu. So try to do that planning in advance and really set yourself up for success there.
That is exactly what we had in a suggestion from Jeff Huot in Gatineau. Plan what you will buy and make a meal plan for the week. So exactly speaking to that. But interestingly, Janet goes on to talk about in planning, make lots of soups, save your veggie scraps for stocks. That's a way to stretch the budget further. That's the suggestion from Janet. And also, reduce dairy and meat. Now, we know that meat not so much, but dairy for 2022 is an area that there's going to be a big price increase. That's the forecast. There are a number of people suggesting a shift either away from or a reduction in meat consumption toward more legumes. Is that something that's a cost saving?
Well, it's kind of always been that meatless Monday, right? Something that people were doing for their health, but yes, now they're doing it for their pocketbook. Absolutely love the suggestion of, getting out the slow cooker or investing in one. They're not very expensive, and that can really stretch out your meat consumption. As you were mentioning, the soups as well, you're just throwing a little bit of Parmesan cheese on. So you're still getting a little bit of that dairy, that loveliness of the cheese without having to really break the budget. And all these things, really add up.
Interesting, as I look at some of these, again, they're all reiterating your excellent advice. Buy large format, so buy in bulk, price comparison shop, apps, bring them into bear, coupons. I want to conclude with one more because it comes to us out of Newfoundland. Krista in Newfoundland. This is really to the extreme. Maybe you're aware of this. I hadn't heard about it so much, but she said that there are people who are actually sort of going back to homesteading. More and more people, and a lot of people in Newfoundland where there's a tremendous degree of food insecurity. So they literally, she is part of a group, they forage for mushrooms, they actually hunt for their meat, they have opportunity to pick berries, forage for mushroom, hunt wild game. She's an extreme coupon clipper. She grows her own produce, preserves as much as possible. I mean, are people really going to, do you think we'll see more of this? People confronting this reality by making those wholesale lifestyle changes, if it's possible for them, Kelley?
I think so, Heather. I mean, even, the growing season last year, I really spent a lot of time in my garden and shopping at all of the garden stores, planting my garden, but also I noticed how much, I'd never seen it before, how much produce was available to either take these plants home or actually plant them and create a garden, zucchini and squash and tomatoes. I had a ton of tomato plants myself and enjoyed lots of them. And it really was a first opportunity of having, a city slicker kind of garden, but it was really enjoyable and just taking us back to our roots, that, the agrarian roots and the appreciation that, my grandma and grandpa had for the food and the livestock that they raised. So I think this is wonderful. And this whole slow food movement that started 20, 25, maybe even 30 years ago, the pandemic has forced us to look at. So as much as this can be very painful to our pocketbooks and to, our lifestyle, there's a wonderfulness to connecting with our food, to not wasting what we buy, because we know billions of dollars is wasted every year by Canadians. And I'll put my hand up too. It's a real struggle to make sure you're always eating what you buy. So there are a lot of wonderful takeaways, and certainly teaching our children as well how food is grown, where it comes from. It's lovely.
It's lovely to talk to you as always. Thank you for the time. Really appreciate the conversation. And thanks for talking about our viewers' questions and tips as well, Kelley.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Heather.
See you soon. Kelley Keehn, personal finance educator and the author of a new book, Talk Money to Me.